Hey everyone, this is a recap of July 16th. Starting with gold, uh, no movement above the dead zone, and just bled super chopped around the weekly floor. But due to sentiment throughout earlier in the week and the daily bias, um, this was bound to get squeezed out with this much chop here. Super, super obvious. Similar thing happened at a higher area with NQ and ES, but it was the same with gold, just lower. And then it pushed down, and New York was mostly terribly choppy. For tomorrow, expecting a similar situation with more downside, whether we stay in this area and then dump or it goes a little bit higher and then comes down. But definitely not looking good for tomorrow for upside. Let's jump over to NQNES. Recapping NQNES. Um, I did a little prediction box for anyone who's looking to trade London and it caught the bottom. Long story short, it was a mixed bag for Asia. Well, the first part of Asia. Um, we had opportunities for both longs and shorts. But like I mentioned, there was a ton of chop squeezed and then it dumped very aggressively for pretty much a trend day to the downside. We did, although, um, get some shorts uh, in New York, which was pretty great. And I'm sorry, it was longs. No, it was shorts. Sorry, I just looked it up. No, it was longs. Shorts was the night before, and then longs in New York. Okay, so the 325 to 340 longs, which was, yeah, after 11. Okay, sorry. My screen was all over the place. Yeah, so he took longs here. Those went for 120 points, but I mentioned you could have TP'd or trimmed at 80 points. So that went well. And then it continued more downside. This was pretty brutal to sit through, try to figure out what was happening. But ultimately, before I signed off, I mentioned that more downside was expected. And that's what came in very slowly, but surely. For tonight, Trump is speaking at 9 p.m. Eastern. National address. I do expect for there to be some pretty wild volatility going into Asia. Um, Probably at first, if we don't sweep the low, it just retraces a little bit and it climbs. I put this zone for bias caution that would pretty much apply to the whole day. Um, but yeah, I mean, this really could squeeze on news and still come back down. There are scenarios that I could see using the fractal where we could get a crazy squeeze in Asia and still like pretty badly bleed down to a daily vector test tomorrow and whatnot. Um, yeah, I mean, ideally we could like have some pretty obvious rejection, but market's gonna probably do a lot of like chopping until that 9 p.m. address. Um, I think if there's any direction it's gonna chop towards, it's to the upside. Um, Try to figure out what's happening in this area. This is a big area, but there's a long time between tonight and New York. So I would ideally like to see at least some rejections here. And then Trump say some stuff, we come down, retrace, and then continue the downside tomorrow. The only thing I'm a little bit cautious about is this C target up here. Um, So that's why, I mean, I could see like a squeeze scenario. So again, I'm using this zone as bias caution, going all the way into tomorrow morning. So I'm using this going all the way into tomorrow morning. If I'm going to try to figure out what the whole day is going to do based off of half the session, it's just not a good idea. Just be patient. I'll try to figure out the whole day off of just a few hours. Um, so I'm using this zone all day. Yeah. So I mean, it's a lot of clear targets, a lot of confluences. Um, Something to note: the heavy walls are like super bearish. You look at this. It's like super bearish. Um, so because of that, and the other confluences, I mean, I am overall bearish, but due to the expectation of increased volatility for the national address, it could look very bullish for a second and still be bearish for the whole day. So that's where you kind of weigh in the difference between invalidation or volatility. All right. So happy Free Friday, and let's make it a good one. Trade well.